Hello, everybody. Meteorologist Hutch Johnson joining you as we close out the month of February and head into March. We have something to talk about. The West Coast will start to see not 1 day, not 2 days, but up to 4 days of storms. And already the National Weather Service has issued a host of warnings, and those include winter storm warnings and blizzard warnings along the West Coast. The Rocky Mountains of Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, and Idaho all going to be impacted, as will much of Nevada as well. We're going to go over this, and these storms eventually make their way over the Rockies and into the Central Plains as well as, well, the East Coast. And there's indications we could see a nor'easter or two develop out of these systems as well. We'll give you the timing. We're going to talk about what you need to know here as we head through the next few days. Buddy, good to have you on board. I hope you're having a wonderful day out there. And as always, drop me a note. Let me know where you're watching from. And I'd love to see if you have any questions as well. Those are welcome. And we always welcome likes. Now, let's get right to it. We're going to talk a little bit about a forecast model that shows us some of the progression of the stormy activity as we go through the next days. And as we head through the night tonight and head into Thursday, that's when these storm systems out off of the West Coast, yes, way out in the Pacific. Check out this progression of storms here as I play through it slowly, coming off the Aleutian chain, slamming, kind of skirting right along the West Coast, hitting everywhere from British Columbia through the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest, as well as California, with wave after wave of wintry weather. And this continues beyond the next 4 days as well, just to add. These storms then dive into the plains and Central Plains, heading toward the mid-Atlantic states as well. So national impacts will be the rule. Now, as we take a closer look at this, we will dive in and check out this model. There's several models. We'll review another one here in a minute. But I have to tell you, we're going to take a check at when this starts. And we're going to talk about the waves of snow and where they impact. And look at this. We already have winter storm and blizzard warnings days in advance from this system in the mountains and the of California as we go through the next couple of days. Here we go. Good to have you on board, Chuck. Howdy. I love it. I love it. Thanks for joining us. Now, here is a look. As we sneak our way through the overnight hours, here comes a wave of snow and rain. Very heavy rain on the West Coast. We're talking from Washington State through northern parts of Oregon first, and then this dives southward. But the upper level winds are coming from the south and the west. And with that flow, we're going to introduce this moisture flow into the mountains of Reno. And if you look at the dates here, we're already getting into Saturday and Sunday with snow, wave after wave of snow. You see that? Watch, there's wave 1 making landfall. Then there's wave 2 right there, wave 3 making landfall, and then 4. So all of the mountains of the West Coast and the Rocky Mountain West are going to see the impacts of this. We'll start in California with a look at this, and we're going to start with a look at what timing these systems have. You can see the area of pink. Those are the blizzard warnings outside of Reno, all the way from Redding and Chico down into the Fresno area where there is a red color. That is for a winter storm warning. Here's where things get going. Look at the clock, 9 a.m. as we close out the month of February on the 29th. It's your bonus day on this leap year. Now, as we take a look at the progression of this, we're going to step in time into the 1st of March. Some of this flow and energy makes its way up into the Rocky Mountains. We're talking Twin Falls, Idaho Falls, and western Wyoming as well. Backing out just a smidge so we can take a look at all of the snow taking place as we go through parts of, well, Oregon and on up into the Washington State area as well. So it's just getting started on the West Coast and just starting to spill over into the Rocky Mountains. Now, as we go through, this is when things really get nasty. And this storm is going to not only come with heavy amounts of precipitation, where you see the dark blues here, those are heavier batches of snow. Where you see the grays, that's ridiculous batches of snow. Hey, good to have you on board, buddy. And thanks again for dropping me a note from RGV. Thank you so much, Chuck. Good to have you joining as well. Now, as we set this into motion, look at Carson City, Nevada. Look at down into central and, well, even the southern portions near Bakersfield of the Sierra Range. We're talking about Ridgecrest to Bishop to Mammoth Lakes, all the way up to Carson City. And Truckee looks to be another area that's going to be hit by these heavy waves of snow. This is round 2. This is on the 2nd as we go into the afternoon there on your Saturday. So the weekend will be very busy all the way through with these heavy waves of snow trudging their way through much of northern and central parts of Nevada, northern parts of Utah, Ogden and points north, and then working their way into Idaho, Jackson, Wyoming, and the western Rockies of Wyoming. That goes all the way up to Cody and in southern Montana as well for those folks in and around West Yellowstone. So this is already on day 3, and then we're going to carry this all the way into Sunday before finally there's just a little bit of a reprieve. Notice the dark blue is still in the Sierra Nevada. Notice the dark blue and heavy snow bands outside of Northern California into parts of Washington and Oregon State, just continuing. Now, these storm systems, as they work their way over the Rocky Mountains and Sierra Nevada, dive through the Rockies. Here's your break, right? As we go through the 4th Monday and the 5th on Tuesday. But there's more upstream from this. These warnings are not for the more that's upstream. Just know this, we could have more. Look at that. As we go into the 6th of the month, that's way out there next Wednesday. Too far out, a lot can change. But just know this, there's going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4-day snowmaking system slamming into the Sierra Nevada and the Rocky Mountains of the west, the Cascades of the north, and much of British Columbia for neighbors to the north. Rebecca, good to have you on. Thanks for your appreciation. You can drop me a line and let me know where you're coming from. I really love all of your support, and I love all your likes on the videos as well. Now, these storm systems will leap over the Rocky Mountains and work their way into the Central Plains, and the timing on those systems is something that we can go over too. I am purposefully not carrying this model out all the way because these waves you see off the West Coast still as we go into the first full week of the month of March, that's still too far out to really time and track the specific areas of landfall. Now, as these storms do make their way over the Rocky Mountains, we're just going to focus on this area here. Rocky Mountains, the high plains on the east side of the Rocky Mountains. So we're talking about from Denver to the plains of eastern Wyoming, all the way into the central and southern plains and the Atlantic coast. So those storms will make their way through. I am going to turn off some details about, well, what's going on right now out there as we look in on the points out west. We have a lot of storm reports going on out there, and it has been a very active East Coast weather day after a storm brought a blizzard to the northern plains. Here we go. Let's back this up. Now, we're going to start, and you're going to start seeing the snow systems roll off of the Rockies. They almost look invisible as they do work over the Rockies, because what happens is these little waves in the upper levels of the atmosphere hit the Rocky Mountains, and as they come down the slopes of the Rocky Mountains, they stretch and they intensify. And when that happens, I got to tell you, we're going to start seeing a chance of these storm systems tracking through the central and southern plains. One of them begins as we go into your day tomorrow, very late through Houston and the southern plains states. And that system, watch what happens as these systems dig into some more moisture as they work into the southeastern United States, heading into the 1st of the month for you on Friday. Then that will continue its trek off to the coast. That's a wet system, not a white system. As the main event gets going on the West Coast, watch where the waves of energy start to blossom. One of them shoots straight back up into Canada. So it comes down off the Pacific Northwest, works its way into the Rockies, and a piece of that energy blasts up into British Columbia, Calgary, Alberta, as well as into Manitoba, and it skirts along the northern plains. So we here in the northern plains are watching for everything from maybe our first bout with some thunder snow or the like, some thunder showers across parts of Minnesota is what I'm thinking will be possible as we go into Sunday afternoon. Here we go with that system working its way off to the east. Another one away from the energy you start seeing developing again in the Gulf Coast states. Because it's developing in the far south, look at the cold slice of air working its way into Ottawa and into Toronto and Chicago. More active weather for you after severe weather dropped several tornadoes the other day. This model guidance says on the 5th in the morning, we'll start to see the development of some storms. When cold air clashes with this warm, humid air here rolling off of the Rocky Mountains, it's also dry, and those factors indeed do have, well, that risk for severe weather. So we will leave it at that. There'll be a chance for some strong storms along the southern states, and watch what happens to this one as it lifts. There we go. A lot of rain and snow making its way off into the northeastern Atlantic states. Here we go into the 7th of the month, and this is getting a little bit farther out there, but the central and southern Rockies throw one of these waves of energy off that moves into the central plains. And look at this mess that the American model is advertising on or around the 8th of the month. So we're talking way out, Friday the 8th of March. So that's a long ways out, and a lot can change in that time frame. But just suffice it to say, the West Coast gets hit with multiple waves of snow the next 4 days, all the way into Sunday. After that, you get a break, and then it could be right back into business with more stormy weather for you. We can take a look at another model here while we do that, and these storms exiting the Rocky Mountains and entering the plains, some of which will dance along the international border in the early time frame. We're talking this upcoming weekend, and many of which will dive out of the central and southern Rockies and impact the southern plains, hopefully helping with some of the fires that are ongoing down in the deep south. Let's take a peek at what we have with regards to our chances of stormy weather when we look at the European model. So I'll load that up over on the other side over here, and now we'll get you over to that. What we're looking for is a little bit of consistency in the timing and the area of the impact the next 4 days on the West Coast storms, and then we'll look at its thoughts on the storms exiting the West Coast and Rocky Mountains into the Central Plains. Here we go. All right. As we take a peek, we'll adjust the screen here just a little bit so it's centered as much as possible. Okay, now as we take this all the way back, here are the storms making their entry into the West Coast of the United States. Now, this begins our days of weather. You're looking here at Thursday as we go through the day tomorrow. So this storm system enters the Cascades of Washington State. It hits the mountains of Oregon with some heavy snow from Snoqualmie Pass down through areas outside of Portland. And then boom, by the late day, it really enters the Sierra Nevada and the northern mountains of California. As we go through the day, the wind with the storm, as you can see here, by what we call isobars. I'll see if I can highlight these for you right here. The isobars are aplenty. When they're close together, we're going to have some very gusty winds coming off the Pacific, and it's going to impact all of the West Coast, and increasingly as we get into the mountains, because the higher up you get on those peaks, you're up and out of the friction of the surface layer, and it allows those winds to be even stronger. We're talking potential gusts of 70 miles per hour in some of these places. So we'll get to your forecast here for snowfall amounts from this in one moment. Hang with me, because I will answer those questions. The National Weather Service is talking 1 to 10 feet of snow, and that was not eye candy, and that's not me exaggerating. That's a National Weather Service. So here we go. You're looking at Friday now. In the morning, the snow in the Sierra Nevada has spread in from there all the way into the mountains of Wyoming, western Montana, northern parts of Utah, and northern parts of Nevada, as well as Idaho. So we take a look at that. That spreads through, weakens a little bit in the Rockies here, but on the West Coast, here comes another train of moisture and wind, and the date on this is Friday night. So Thursday, for much of the day, is when it gets started, and it lasts into the night, all day Friday. There's your second wave. Do you see all the purples here, by the way? That is some serious flakes the size of your fist that'll be flying out there in central portions of the Sierra Nevada and western parts of the state of Nevada. That wave works its way up into the same place, the Rockies, northern Utah, western Wyoming, western Montana, and even Colorado getting into the mix here as we head into Sunday morning, that the northern Rockies, north of, say, Fort Collins, Boulder, and Denver, could be seeing some significant snow from that. Here we go. As we go into the weekend, there's your Northern Plains storm. That one exiting out and taking a northern route that will probably produce some Manitoba marauders, some flakes the size of, well, my face. And they're going to continue to work their way up towards, well, eventually Hudson Bay. That storm will not impact the East Coast too much, with the exception of the far northern portions of Maine. Now, this is your break as we head into Sunday. So that's your 4 days of snow for California beginning Thursday, blasting on Friday with huge winds, more heavy snow into Sunday before finally getting a break into Monday. Then the European model does say, yep, here comes some more stormy weather there. Now, backing this up all the way, watch the impacts on the plains. Wave 1 working its way out of the Rockies, the southern Rockies, along the Well, the Rio Grande Valley there, and it heads off into the Gulf Coast states where it mingles with moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. That'll bring some more showers of rain to Louisiana, the Mississippi Delta, working into the southeastern United States. Then wave 2 makes its northern track that we talked about, heading into the northern portion of the United States on the northern plains. Then wave 3, here we go, boom, you see it out in Louisiana again? That's the southern portion of that wave, and that one could bring some strong to possibly severe storms to the deep south with turning of the winds throughout the atmosphere. A little early to get too excited about that, but we'll be watching it and we'll see. There it goes, heading into the mid-Atlantic states, the Appalachians digging into now the warm Gulf current out there on the east coast and the Atlantic seaboard. That could bring some wind and snow to the northeastern and New England states. That's a look. That's far enough out. Next wave making its way through, and you get the picture. It looks like an active pattern as we get through the first couple of weeks of the month. So now we're going to switch gears, and I do want to wrap up and also go over some of these snowfall reports and forecasts from my friends at the National Weather Service. So here we go. Without further ado, I'm going to turn off some of the model data. We're going to look at the forecast map now, and the colors that you see on this will be indicative of snowfall amounts. Check this nonsense out. It's redonkulous as you look at this. Now, the storms that are going to be most impactful will be along the West Coast because we have wave after wave. They hit the Pacific Northwest first. In fact, you can see that we even have precipitation ongoing now from Victoria, British Columbia, down to Aberdeen and Astoria, as well as Portland, where it's been a very ridiculous and soggy winter. When we get into the mountains near Snoqualmie Pass, out to the east of Seattle, the National Weather Service says that's right, 2 to 4 feet of snow and winds gusting to 50 miles per hour. Try driving the Winnebago in that. No fun at all. Stay off the roads. Then, when is the timing on this? Basically from now all the way until Thursday night. That's wave 1, and there's a winter storm warning for the mountains of parts of Washington. Now let's go south just a little bit and read what we have going on near Portland. If you're near Portland, there is another storm system, the same one. It'll take a little bit longer. This one is, because it takes longer to get started, will be with you longer. This warning, winter storm warning, in effect until Friday morning. Okay, 6 to 10 inches of snow with 10 to 20 above 2,500 feet. So that's approaching 2 feet and 50 mile per hour winds and gusts. That's no fun either. Now, as we get down into California, because of the multiple days, start checking this out. We have winter storm warnings from Medford, Oregon through Eureka, California, on up towards Redding. Those are winter storm warnings in red. The National Weather Service says there in the coastal areas, the winter storm warning that you see there is from Thursday through Saturday in the northern part of the state. And look at the snowfall amounts they're talking here. Snow levels will continue to drop as low as 1,000 feet, maybe even 500 feet by the time we get into Saturday. There's going to be some significant cold air working in with this system. And even in the lower elevations, they're talking 1 to 3 inches of snow. That's not common. 18 inches in the passes at elevation with 55 mile per hour gusts. So that's Northern California. Here's saving some of the hugest amounts for last. Check this nonsense out. Let's go check out the Truckee area, that pass there as you're going on the interstate. Blizzard conditions are likely. There's a blizzard warning. When? Look at the when. From Thursday morning all the way to Sunday, about midday. Basically the greater Lake Tahoe area. Look at my head. You can see 2 to 5 feet for Lake Tahoe communities. 4 to 8 feet above 7,000 feet. 60 mile per hour winds and 110 mile per hour gusts at the ridges. Not all of us hang out at the ridges, but you're talking about just completely terrible travel conditions as you go through that area. Now, as we take a gander just a little bit farther to the south here, let's look at the Mammoth Lakes area and the warnings that are in effect for that area. Look at this. We're talking 3 to 6 feet of snow along the Sierra Nevada crest. We're talking wind gusts to 75 miles per hour, and at elevation, again, 110 miles per hour. So very treacherous conditions there, not to forget our mountains in the Rockies here, particularly Wyoming. Jackson has had a pretty busy winter season there in the mountains of western Wyoming. 4 feet possible there for the Tetons, 60 mile per hour gusts, and the timing on that is from Thursday night. So it's making its way over the Rockies. It'll take till Thursday night to get to you, lasting all the way till very late Saturday night or Sunday morning. Another long-term type of event. So that's a look at the Rocky Mountain West. That's a look at the National Weather Service watches and warnings associated with that system. And we'll keep you apprised right here. My name, again, is meteorologist Hutch Johnson. I've been on the air for the better part of 30 years here in the Northern Plains. And I have spent 20 years in the classroom teaching meteorology to college level courses, and also a few years in research as well at the laboratories in Boulder, Colorado. Love talking weather. I love your appreciation through likes. And if you feel so moved, go ahead and subscribe to my page right here. Love to see you again. Brace for some serious snow and about with some unsettled weather from the West Coast through the Central Plains and even the East Coast as we head into the first full week of the month of March. Have yourself a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday.